Hello, back on track with Tarn House today. I've thrown all the guitars away, absolutely everything. Spent weeks on them, did all sorts of processing, multi layers, just got completely carried away, and ended up. I never wanted electric guitars in the first place. I was just too lazy to record acoustic guitar. So yeah, it just wasn't working. It's one of those situations where the more time you spend on something, it becomes increasingly difficult to actually stop. But I finally got brave, literally deleted every single guitar track off the song and started from scratch. So this is my acoustic guitar rendition, which I don't know whether or not it's complete, but I really like what's there. I'm going to play the entire song so that you can hear the acoustic guitar line. Still piano guide vocals. I've not recorded any vocals with Pauline yet. We had a session the other week, but it was against the electric guitars, and I want to record properly against this version of these guitars. Let's hear it. Much happier with that. That's how I always wanted it to sound in the first place. The electric guitar is just too electric. It's just a completely different instrument and was never what this wanted. And it's a little bit closer to the spirit of the original inspiring VST that sits disabled and kind of forever forlorn. The you can see that I've done a bit of a weird thing with the panning. There are some places in the guitar where it's doubled, and so I've panned them hard left and right, and where I've only got one line, I've got them in this mid channel. So we get this kind of interesting contrast of the... So that's two different guitar lines. Here's the left hand one. And that's a much simpler thing on the right hand side, just providing support. They work really well together. And then when I've only got one line, I switch to the mid. But what this has done has given me an opportunity to start experimenting with different compressors. So on the left hand channel, we've got this, which is he says, looking briefly at his notes, because I don't know any of this stuff offhand, Neve 33609 compressor limiter. I mean, everybody knows that, don't they? But I've been super lazy with these things. I just wanted a different sound for each of the channels to kind of bring some emphasis between them. So I spent maybe 15 minutes going through various compressors in my armory, and then just like threw a random preset on. It's absolutely brutal. I should be flayed. On the right hand channel, this is another IK multimedia thing, but this is an 1176 EUA 1176, which I have an emulation of in my UA aux. He said, oh, get over yourself. And then on the mid channel, we've got yet another one, which again, this is what I'm cribbing off. This is my list of emulations that I made a note of at some point. DBX 165A compressor limiter. I am absolutely horrific on my history. So the point is that I've picked different pieces of kit, and now I can start kind of playing with the contrast between each of those different sounds, and I get interesting variation. Now this one, for instance, is too muddy at the moment. It's too warm. Let's get that going. So this is again just a natural guitar preset, but this will be the first thing that I really start kind of getting into and trying to figure out how to make it sound how I want it to. It's just a little bit kind of flat and dead at the moment, but I figured that using the same song with different guitar lines and having different plugins on each of them will allow me to really hear those contrasts. And the moment I put each of these compressors on the tracks, it instantly, I mean, they're good pieces of kit. You know, compressors are great anyway for this kind of stuff, but it really elevated the entire sound and knitted it all together. Really happy with the guitar sound. And I think that's now opened the gate for me to carry on with the song. As I say, we tried to record some vocals with Pauline. There were some takes that we did just for the first section of the song, but they were against the old electric guitar and just nothing was hanging together. It sounded disjointed and just not right, just unpleasant. And so singing over the top of that, you know, Pauline wasn't able to really vibe off on it. So I'll let her listen to this acoustic guitar and then, you know, let that sink in, and hopefully we'll get a different direction and the vocals can really tie in with the track. In terms of like talking about tying in, I think since the last time actually, this entire song is basically rewritten. I started from the drums up and spent a lot more time figuring out with the swing settings in Groove Agent. So this kit that I took presets from, I took, you know, patterns from it, and then applied a literally universal 17% swing. I just messed around with all of the various tracks completely on its own, just listening to the drums until I got it feeling the way that I wanted it to swing. I really like gentle swing. You know, everything in music is always a general principle, but my general principle with swing is less is more. So I found the swing value that I wanted, and now each of these patterns just have a really lovely kind of languid feel to them. And so from there, I effectively rebuilt the drum line, and then turned it all into MIDI notes, and I've now got my fixed absolute, this is my drum line, and I'm going to work with it from this point onwards. Just today muted this tambourine line that was just there all the time. I figured, what the hell are you doing there? Piss off. So I've left with the rest of the drum line, and then having kind of fixed that and said, right, you're now it. You're the foundation of the entire song. Re-recorded the whole bass line over the top so that it was really locked in with the drums. I mean, the bass line is still very simple. I've added a few little articulations and like surround notes and whatnot, but for the most part it's a pretty straight walking bass line. I am starting to study a little bit more voice leading and arpeggios and harmony generally, but for the time being I didn't want to overextend myself, just keep it nice and simple. And then having that foundation, that's when the guitars come along and go over the top. And I found it much easier with this really stable, locked-in groove to then play the guitars over the top. So they actually went down relatively quickly. There were some lines that I struggled to play properly. This section at the end, I had to play in individual chords because I'm just not good enough to do it otherwise. It sounds absolutely fine. Particularly with something like this that has a clear stop to the end of each phrase. As long as when I'm playing it, I begin the movement to the next chord, in other words, I actually play it naturally, then it's really easy to cut each individual chord out and just play each one separately. There's absolutely no need to have to play it as a continuous piece. I wasn't able to get between those two chords without massive string squeaks. It was like really egregious. So I just played it in individually. I'm not precious about any of this, as long as the end result is good, and I think it is. I'm really pleased with it. So great progress. Next is to get the vocals down. That's the most important thing. And then once they're in, and I can hear what that kind of sonic skyline looks like, then I'll know which other instruments or which other frequency ranges I've got to insert other stuff. There needs to be a solo. I've been deliberately sparse with the guitar in the section where there's no vocals for these, whatever it is, 8 bars is it? Because I know that there's going to be a solo in there, so that'll be good fun. We're really enjoying this one. It's taken an awful long time to get to this next stage because I had to make that difficult, struggle, fail, throw it all away, rebuild from the ground up. But I'm glad having ripped that plaster off that I can actually make progress now, and we're up and running again. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider subscribing, hit notifications, helps me out a lot. Hope to see you next time. Thanks.